show my desktop here, and what you see here is our typical mobile device for a warehouse. And I'm going to walk you through a little bit of this. And what you see over on the side here is the screen for the device that I've got here. So as I touch the device, you'll see the screen update. And I'll walk you through a little bit of how this works. But you made a comment on the hands-free there. Let me just get that out of the way. And I thought I'd also show this, because I don't show this very often, but here's that example of a hands-free setup. So you can kind of see my hand there. I've got this little ring scanner, and I've got this device on my wrist. And this is how we can set it up to work. So, a lot of people talk about, the voice picking and things like that, and that's another option as well. But I find this far more productive because we can set it up so that I can just walk up to an item I need to pick, right? I've got it on my screen here. I can angle it, whatever I want to do. I can see what I'm supposed to do. I go beep, and it's handled. And so it's far faster than paper picking, voice picking, everything else. And I'm getting that physical verification that I'm actually doing the right thing. And that's an important thing to talk about. When we talk about barcoding, a lot of people, it's termed, automated data collection, ADC, and even old NAV, ADCS, the automated data collection system. And, when we're talking about improving our productivity in the warehouse or improving our efficiency, I can go out and I can do a paper-based pick way faster probably than I can do it with the scanner. The hands-free, I can do it faster probably with the hands-free, but I can go out there and I can take a piece of paper and go grab something and go check it off on the piece of paper, and it takes me half a second to record that I've picked that product on my piece of paper. And then I can add that piece of paper in, and somebody just goes, if there's no exceptions, if there's a check mark beside everything, they hit a button, they fill the pick in Business Central, and they post it, they register it. So that's extremely fast. You'd think that's really efficient, right? The guy can go out there and he can zip down that aisle, and it takes him a quarter second or half a second to mark the fact that he's picked that item. That's really efficient. Well, it's not. It's, that's false efficiency or false concept of efficiency, because what happens is then they take it over to shipping. Shipping throws it all in a box, sends it out, and then the customer phones and you ship me all the wrong stuff, or you missed something, or whatever. The big deal, the big efficiency improvement you get with barcode scanning is that physical verification. That's what you're getting from the system, because I'm able to grab something, scan this, cardboard box that looks exactly like the cardboard box beside it, and I can ensure that I am actually picking the right product and shipping the right product. And I've got that real-time feedback into the system. So yes, in some cases, if people are using typical handheld scanners like this guy, and depending on the level of scanning enforcement they set up in the system, it may take a little longer to scan barcodes versus jot down on a piece of paper. But what it's doing is it's improving your inventory accuracy, it's preventing your mispicks, it's preventing your misships, and that is where you're going to get those efficiency improvements. You don't have to have a team of 10 people doing QC on the outbound shipments. It's handled because I physically verified it with the scanner. Right? That's the big advantage of scanning.
Interestingly enough, I am such a geek for this that I have actually done all these time studies. And the striking part for me is, if you think about the paper process, a person in the office, whether it be the back room or the shipping office, they generate out a paper pick list. And then they hand that off to someone, typically, who then takes that, and then they go into the picking process. And then when they're done, that paper pick list then gets sent off to someone else who now does the data entry. If you're doing the data entry live, you eliminate the need for that time spent. Exactly. As you say, I will tell you, if you're someone like me, and I could certainly be involved in a picking operation. I certainly have the skill set, but I am, okay. And then I go over, was that 3 or 4? Oh, it was 3? All right. That fraction of a second begins to add up. And those are just some examples of what can happen when you take that out. And then, of course, when you have barcode verification, as you mentioned, you're literally improving your accuracy. Not only are you doing a better job of picking more accurately in the first place, you're ensuring that your inventory count is is adjusted more accurately. So you talked about cycle count scheduling and all that stuff. Well, yes, but depending on the accuracy of your cycle counts, imagine if you were able to decrease the frequency of your cycle counts or decrease the lot sample of your cycle counts because you've done the statistical analysis that says, yes, in general, my accuracy tends to be here, so I don't need to check as often. That's also time saved.
Exactly.
So people are so stuck in the moment of the moving of the part, they forget the total system. Back to that systems thinking again. You get the totality of the time spent in these operations, and it's massive. And then, of course, if you're not checking your orders and you can hire fewer or repurpose fewer of your QC people into more value-added, valuable work for the customer, wow, that's more time reduced, all because you went to this.
Exactly.
So the hands-free allows you to further increase the productivity of the person.
Exactly.
But going mobile affects the entire system.
Exactly.
I love that.
Yep.
See why I'm a geek?
Yeah, you mentioned the time studies. What's being proven, and it's kind of common sense. It seems obvious, is most of the time in the warehouse is spent walking around. The more you can reduce that, the better, and that's where the inventory accuracy comes back in. If the default behavior on our solution is I verify the bin that I'm picking from, so that I didn't just find some of this product sitting and receiving and scanned it there. So I verify the bin, I verify the item, and you don't have to verify the bin, but by doing that, that improvement in inventory accuracy reduces the amount of time we spend wandering around the warehouse. Why is that? Well, next time we generate a pick, we know the exact quantities of those items in the individual bins. We're not sending you to bin A1 thinking there's product there, when in fact there isn't, because somebody was supposed to pick from bin B2, but they just grabbed it from A1 because it was there. So now what we're doing is we can be very efficient, very accurate in where we send people to grab that inventory. And that takes massive amounts of time. You can imagine a temp warehouse worker or somebody that's just being hired, they get a pick ticket that says go to bin A1, he gets there, it's empty. What does that cost you in time? He's either going to have to run back into the office or find somebody who knows what's going on, or he's going to wander up and down the aisles for half an hour trying to find this thing, or he's just not going to ship it. What does that do to your bottom line? What does that do, to the entire system, right? So that inventory accuracy manifests in, improvements in all sorts of different ways.
And just as I look at the app on the screen here, I think about that time spent and that time moving. So warehouse worker 1, looking on the screen, they have a pick operation. Okay, what I want you to do is I want you to go over, I want you to do these picks. All right, you know what? Let's let warehouse workers 2, 3, and 4 work on that. I need you to go over, we just got this, and I need you to work on put away. They don't need instruction. They literally take their device and they go, and they switch into put away, and they switch their mode. And I love the agility that it creates if you have cross-trained your workers. It's all that is enabled just by the fact that you give them a mobile device and you have the app, the warehouse management system that lets them be agile and go do the things that they need to do. So
exactly.
All that is enabling technology that just makes companies work so much better.
Exactly. And, and that real-time, feedback that you mentioned earlier is also vitally important. I normally say we want to keep our physical world and our virtual world in Business Central in sync to, the highest degree possible. We want that virtual world and physical world to be the same, because if I'm sitting in the office and I look in Business Central, I want that to be an accurate representation of what's happening in my warehouse, what my inventory is like, who's working on what, all of those sorts of things I want available in real time. That's what we're trying to accomplish with the scanning. And I mean, we're talking about the warehouse management side, but this also goes for the production side, the shop floor side. So we have, that same concept there where we can do that automated data collection and capture what people are working on so that we know what's happening, so that we can do some analysis on the back end to say, is our standard costing correct? Or are we actually making money or as much money on these products we're producing as we expect? So again, the physical and virtual world, we want to keep those as tightly synced as possible.
Well, on the manufacturing side, I'm thinking there are a number of small manufacturers who they may not have a particular piece part that's tens of thousands of pieces. They may have 6. And by keeping that inventory in sync and as close to real time as possible, you come back and say, okay, I've got a rework situation. All right, I can't just go pull a part. I've got 6. If the inventory is not updated and I go pull a part or 2 parts or 3 parts, I know manufacturing operations where people actually hide parts in their bench. Okay, I've seen it with my own eyes. But if you have 6 pieces and those are already allocated, those are already committed, and the inventory is not updated, or they're virtually committed, the inventory is not updated, now you're in trouble, and you find out way too late. Likewise, in counter sales, where they begin to integrate e-commerce into the situation, and they don't have a lot. I think of when I used to have an RV. Go to the RV parts place. They don't have an abundant amount of inventory, but I can go in, I can buy it on e-commerce. If my inventory is not updated when they pull those parts, then you can have a very disappointed e-commerce customer, because they're ordering something that they thought was there and you thought was there, but you have a lag in inventory update time.
Exactly.
And all that results in a bad customer experience. In the case of manufacturing, delays. And in the case of e-commerce, delays, and frustration from the customer. Well, I didn't know this was going to happen. And so I think about all those things.
And that customer satisfaction is a good metric. It's a bit subjective, but there's been lots of sort of research and improved on-time delivery, specifically when we're talking manufacturing, can actually improve your market share, or at minimum maintain your market share over missed on-time deliveries, right? Late deliveries. Mm-hmm. So I forget the exact number. I'll have to look. We have an ROI calculator on the website that has this, but I believe it's, I don't want to throw out the numbers, but it's fairly significant. That customer satisfaction is important. When we're shipping things, when we're manufacturing things, making sure that we're shipping the right product, like from a shipping and warehouse management perspective, that we're producing the product on time. All of those things lead to improved market share. That's been proven fairly conclusively.
Well, and I covered just for a brief bit about why customers would love you, and that customer experience is absolutely crucial. If they stop loving you, good news travels slow. Bad news travels around the world lightning fast. People love to tell a bad story about somebody.
Yes, indeed.
And those opportunity costs can be massive. Absolutely massive.
Yes. Exactly.
So,
all right, well,
I'm all a tingle. I'm ready.
All right. So one thing I'll mention real quick before I jump into the demo. What you see on my wrist there, that is WMS Express, which you can use hands-free if you want. The WMS Express is that free version, and you can kind of see on there what applications are available for it. But if you need to do sort of your core warehouse management activities, receiving, picking, or shipping, inventory counts, bin movements, that's all part of that WMS Express, which is why large DCs could be using it, or small parts rooms or retail outlet could be using that WMS Express very successfully. All right, so that's all I'm going to talk about on the WMS Express. Now what we're going to do is jump in and walk through a little bit. Sorry, you can hear me taking my wearable off here. We're going to walk through and talk about, we're going to start at sort of after the sales order entry is in there. We've got a bunch of e-commerce orders that have come in. We've got manual sales orders that have been entered. And now we need to send those out to the warehouse for fulfillment. We want to go through and actually, figure out what we can pick, what we can ship, those sorts of things. So to do that, where I'm going to start is actually here in Business Central. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to start out by going to the order fulfillment worksheet. And this is something that, again, standard Business Central doesn't do all that well. And by that, I mean, what can I ship today, right? The purpose of the order fulfillment worksheet is to tell you what you can ship today. So I've got, and this one here loading, this is the first time I fired it up in a while, so it's taking a minute, unfortunately, to fire up. We'll take a sec here. So this has got about 500 orders or so in the system. And what it's done is it's gone out for this particular warehouse that I'm working in here. It's gone out and it said, hey, these are the orders that you can get out the door today. right? This one I can partially ship, this one I can fully ship, this one I'm not allowed to ship at all, or I can't ship because it's marked as ship complete and I don't have enough inventory for it. And this first one here is an aside. I can ship this. This happens to be a transfer to another warehouse, but I can only ship it if I pull some stuff out of my bulk storage area. So depending on how you have your Business Central warehouse location set up, you may have to first move it out of bulk storage before I can actually pick it and ship it. But that's what the thing does. It's going to go out and it's going to look by default based on my earliest ship date on that order. What can I actually get out the door today? And when we look at this earliest ship date, what that also means is it's handling your back orders for you. So you've been around and you've probably seen lots of different ways that people deal with back orders in a warehouse. And maybe not more often than not, but quite often they've got a clipboard out there with a bunch of sales orders that need to be shipped out, and a PO comes in, they'll flip through it or something like that. Maybe it doesn't happen as often anymore, but that used to be pretty prevalent. Well, this handles that for you. You don't have to have any special back order process. You run this sucker, and if I've got a back order out there from a past date and inventory just came in, or I somehow got inventory to fulfill that order, it's going to allocate it, and that oldest order is going to get first crack at the inventory. So it automatically handles those back orders for you. And then what it does for all of the orders that are on here, you can see on this particular one here, we've only got 6 available to pick. And it's very intelligent in how it does this allocation. It's going to look at reservations, so if you do want to specifically reserve product to a customer, it'll do that. If it's looking at lot expiration dates and things like that, it'll do that. And it'll figure out exactly what you can pick for this particular order. And so we've allocated 6 of these items. We only have 6, even though we needed 15. So what that ends up meaning is we've got a partial allocation. Right? Down here at this line here, we needed 3, we've got 12 we can pick, so we've allocated all 3. And what that means is if any of the orders, further on below this need that item as well, the next order is only going to have 9 to choose from because we've allocated 3 out of this 12. And if that one needs 9, it's going to allocate all those 9 to that. And any future orders are not going to get that allocation. So it's going sort of first come, first serve based by default on the shipment date, and automatically allocating that inventory and telling you if you can ship it or not. Now, you might say, well, maybe I do it by date first and look at anything that's in the past, either by setting a filter here for anything that's in the past, deal with my back orders. But then I want to deal with my big customers next. I want to make sure that my large orders always get fulfilled first. Well, we could go over here and you can choose any criteria on the screen or extend it to have more stuff. And I'm going to say, you know what, I'm going to actually sort by my order value. So these are big orders. I want to make sure that I fulfill as much of this order as possible first. So rather than doing it by date, I'm now doing it by order value. And you can see here that some of these orders I have no inventory at all because other orders above them have eaten up that inventory. But if I now go and say recalculate, it's going to go in and it's going to reallocate based on my new criteria. And now we can see we can actually ship some of those larger orders. So it's an excellent tool for saying, okay, based on my specific criteria, maybe I want to do all my UPS orders first, or, again, specific customer first, or priority, or something like that. Tell me what I can ship today. And once you've done it and you can, you're ready to ship it, you can basically grab as many of these guys as you like, hit create picks, and it'll create those pick documents for you automatically. So a few clicks and you've got all your pick documents. You can either create a batch pick, which combines all these orders into a single pick, or split it out by customer number or by warehouse zone, or whatever criteria you want to use to generate that pick document for the warehouse. Now the cool thing is you can also automate this. So that means every 10 minutes this thing can run in the background and spit out any pick documents that I need to process today. So as product is coming in the receiving side and getting put away or cross-docked, any orders that come in, it's going to automatically match those up and spit out what I need to pick, either based on partially available, or maybe just ship the fully available product instead of partial and full. So it really automates that process of figuring out what you can ship today. And we see this a lot. You go into a warehouse where you don't have a tool like this, and the poor supervisor or the shipping manager or whatever He's sitting there, he's got a stack of pick tickets, and some of it he can pick, some of it he can't. Some has to be fully shipped, some can be partially shipped, and he's flipping through the stuff, figuring out what he's supposed to do. And that's most of his day, 4-6 hours a day sitting there messing with that to end up with the same results as I got in 10 seconds there by opening the screen. Okay, so that's the order fulfillment worksheet. So once we've done this, we've created those picks. The next step is we're going to send that out to the warehouse so that they can start executing those pick documents. So what I do there is I'm going to go back to looking at my device here. Come on. There we go. All right, took a second to transition. And we're going to actually work on my mobile device here. So again, I'm going to be messing with this on the screen, but you see it update on the screen beside it in case you can't see the individual icons. So this is what I'm going to do. And just so you know, I'm going to be scanning some sample barcodes. So these are the barcodes that I'll be scanning as I go through it. These are what we call data matrix codes. If you're generating your own barcodes, you can do it out of Business Central. And we would typically use this style of barcode if you're using your own, because we can fit a lot of information in there. For example, this one at the bottom, that's got the lot number and the item number in that barcode. Well, we can fit lot number, item number, unit of measure, quantity, expiration date, all of those things can fit in one barcode. And if you're using GS1 barcodes or UPC barcodes and everything, that's fine. We can scan any barcode you like. But these data matrix codes, to the point of making it easy on the people, you scan one barcode, you've got everything you need to process that item. And we didn't really talk about it too much, but one of the big challenges if you're doing paper-based picking is if you have serial numbers or lot numbers. Well, that's where that automated data collection is extremely handy, because I don't have to write down a serial number, or I don't have to tell people which serial number to pick, and they run out there and hunt through a bin to find a specific serial number. I scan that thing and it's there. I've got no issues, no mistakes, anything else.
Yeah, and if I may on that,
Absolutely.
a big part of our target market is defense-related manufacturing and medical device-related manufacturing. And that lot capture and that serial number capture is crucial for traceability downstream. And so for those of you who are out there thinking, well, why would you want to get that? A part is a part is a part. There are plenty of manufacturing activities where that is really, really crucial to pull that. And even those is the warehouse, manufacturing operations at warehouse as well, you need to capture it.
Exactly. Yep. All right. So what I'll do is, just in the interest of time here, I'm going to, sort of skip all of these other, applications that you see on the device. But I mean, anything you need to do within the warehouse, from inquiry mode, which we can. That's actually a drill down as well. If I'm busy picking and I need more information, I can drill down and get more details about my inventory, or the inventory counts. I've got receiving and put away here, which incidentally, a lot of people don't need that level of capability, right? If you're wanting to receive things, maybe do an inspection, we do have a good quality inspection solution as well, but I want to receive things, inspect it, and then when it's ready, I want to go and put it in the warehouse and do this put away. Well, that's what you would use this for. But you don't have to do that. I can receive directly against a purchase order, or I could be receiving as I'm putting that product away. So lots of different ways you can set up the solution. In my case, when we talk about the picks, I've got two-stage picking turned on. So I pick. I tell the system I've completed this pick, everything is now moved over to shipping, and now shipping can take it and do what they need on the shipping side to palletize it up or whatever. And I can also do the palletizing while I'm picking as well. So we do have that solution where we can build up pallets or boxes for UPS shipping or whatever you want to do, or FedEx or whatever carrier. And then I don't have to do a separate packing operation. I've packed it while I've picked it. So there's lots of things in there that, I guess I could say I'm not going to get into, but I just got into. But I'm not going to show it on the screen. You get the general idea. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to go in here and I'm just going to go into the picking application. And the way this is built out is it's kind of designed to be by role. So each individual will have a role. They'll do a few different things. Like a picker, when he's not busy, he might do bin replenishments, or
Yep.
he might move over to putaways and things like that. So on that main screen, you can kind of tailor their main menu to match the type of work they're doing. But at any rate, I'm going to pick here, and I should also mention, this is also, we're very driven by the physical reality in the warehouse. So what we're doing, like I and you mentioned this before as well. What I did was I opened up that picking application. Why did I do that? Because I have stuff to pick, right? The physical reality of the warehouse says, hey, there's things you need to do. If I need to put things away, I see a pile of stuff that needs to put away. I'm going to go into that put away. I'm not going to have the system say, okay, first you're going to do this pick, then you're going to do this put away, then you're going to do this. I'm going to let the physical reality of the warehouse drive which modules I go into. Okay, so that's...
Yeah, and the experience of the workers too, right? So I can imagine that there are some workers who have a little bit more autonomy in some operations.
Exactly.
You have a senior person, and they know how to adjust.
Exactly.
And so...
Exactly. Now, sort of along those lines, I'm on the picking screen here, and it says, scan a pick document or select one from the list. Well, there's lots of things you can do here. A lot of people still print that paper copy of the pick ticket. And the reason is, it becomes a bit of a traveler. When I drop it off at shipping, they know what the heck I just dropped off at their feet, and they can deal with it easily. There's other options, you can use tote picking, which we have as well, to eliminate some of that paper and those sorts of things. The other nice thing is, if you're using paper-based picking, hey, there's a piece of paper on the printer. It means I have work to do. I grab the piece of paper, I scan it, and off I go. So it's a nice physical trigger to get you moving. And in this case, I'm just going to choose, one of these picks right off the screen. And by the way, on that screen, it had the two fields. It had who it was assigned to and the pick document. But we can make any data available on that screen that you like. That's all done from within Business Central. There's no separate database for this sucker, no separate anything. This is built into Business Central. You can think of this is now another Business Central client user interface that I'm using to manage my warehouse. But just to show you what I mean by that, if I tap the screen here and hit choose columns, on a device by device or user by user basis, I can come in here and make any data I want visible on that screen, either in a card view, like the item card, or a list view, like the item list. Well, it's similar to what we have. We have a card that you can use for your picking, or you can have a list that you use for your picking, like this. This is the list view. And again, you can add whatever fields you like on a per user basis, or you can do it globally right from within Business Central. And that includes custom fields. If you have maybe you added the weight field onto your pick, and you want to pick by weight instead of by bin order, well, you can do that. That's dirt simple. Okay. Now, back to the actual operation of this. This location I'm in does have bins and items, of course. And the default order I've got it here is I've got it set to sort by bin. So I'm starting at aisle 1 and going to aisle 2 and so on and so forth is the order I'm supposed to pick. But the way I execute this gives me a lot of context and a lot of flexibility in how I execute this pick. And again, you can disable that. I could go to a card view and force people to pick in a very specific order. But in this case, I'm standing in aisle 2. I'm not going to walk over to aisle 1 and start picking there. I'm going to start picking here in aisle 2 because I can see I've got stuff here to pick. So what do? The first thing I'm going to do is I'm going to scan, the barcode of the bin that I'm in. Okay, so that is again to ensure our inventory accuracy. So scan that bin, and it tells me at the bottom of the screen that yes, I've scanned that bin. And that is again optional. We can turn that off. And sometimes if you only have fixed bins, you have one bin per item, basically one bin per item. That item is never going to be anywhere else. You might want to turn off that bin requirement. But I've got it on because we need that. And so now I've scanned that bin, and then the next step is I'm going to scan the item that I'm picking from that particular bin. So I'm just going to scan, I'm going to start with that 1908-S thing that's partway down the screen, and scan that guy. When I do, it can optionally show you a picture. And that's good, visual verification, we call it, right? If you're doing your own barcoding and I scan, that thing that pops up a blue chair and I've got, some bananas or something in my hand, I know I've got a big problem with the barcode, and I can hopefully fix that up, or at least not pick that product until it's sorted out. Now,
If you've got bananas in your hand, we've got bigger problems than
yeah,
inventory accuracy.
well, I used to say underwear, but people found that maybe not quite right. Anyway,
Well, apparently they've never been to Costco. Just saying.
true, yes. As long as it's not your own underwear, I guess it's fine.
Oh yeah.
So now that I've done that, it's prompting me for a quantity, and there's lots of options here. Again, it's all about what your best practice physical process is. That's what you want to do. That's usually where I tell people to start. Figure out what your best practice physical process should be, and then we can tailor the system through configuration to match that. If you don't care about people typing in the quantity, right? If they're going to grab something and you're just going to accept the fact, trust them that they've grabbed the right quantity, you don't even have to show this dialogue. You can scan that item and it just says, yes, you've picked 4. Or we could set it up so the default here is 0, and I actually have to type in how many I've picked. So there's all sorts of things you can do around that. Or you can force them to scan this thing 4 times, and that could be set up per item. Anyway, in my case, I'm just going to hit enter on that to pick all 4, and it updates. So Business Central is now updated with that 4. It tells me I've got none left to find. And if you want, you can hide any lines that have been fully picked. You can go in there and have it hide those as you're going through your pick. And so the pick list just gets shorter and shorter as you complete your rounds. That's really all there is to picking, right? Now, I'll just, since we talked about lot numbers, I will just scan an item with a lot number just to show you what that works, or what that looks like. And again, because that lot number was in the barcode, it brings it in for me automatically. And if it didn't bring it in, I could scan a secondary barcode with a lot number, manually type it in, those types of things. But ideally, you have everything in one barcode and I'm good to go. Or, at picking, assuming I've received that lot number properly, I could just scan the lot number, it'll figure out which item it is and all that kind of good stuff as well. The other cool thing that we have, I didn't have one here to show, but in the food industry, we see quite often that the lot number and expiration date are just printed on the box. They're not a barcode, they're actually just, dot matrix printed or whatever. We have scanners that can read that as fast as you can read a barcode. So you point it at the text as if it was a barcode, and it'll go beep, and it'll read that lot number and expiration date by OCRing the text that we read in. So anyway, if you're doing lot numbers or serial numbers, this is how it works. And again, I just enter the quantity that I'm picking of that particular lot number, and it updates Business Central, and we're off to the races. And that's how we do picking.
And I don't think that people, I hope they recognize, but certainly I want to point out, just the elimination of that step, typing in the quantity, just hitting enter to confirm, not having to go through several steps to capture the quantity pick, the lot number, the serial number, etc. Just how much time that can save. You're not talking about 1 or 2 or 3 or 4 or 5 of these a day. If that's the case, it's not that big a deal. The return on investment could take forever. But you can have operations where they're literally doing over a shift thousands and thousands of picks. And elimination of those key presses alone becomes a cost driver.
Exactly.
And I can't impress upon people who don't live in this world, or who are thinking, I'm this big today, forgetting that they're inside the onion and there might be these outside layers they don't perceive yet. It can be a very amazing investment in your long-term productivity.
Yeah, exactly.
Just that kind of foresight that you put into the user interface.
Yeah, exactly. And along those lines, I mean, it used to be, we've been doing this for a long time now, and it used to be that people didn't want to touch the screens ever, and I get that.
Yeah.
I don't either, to be honest. Now we find more people preferring to tap the screen because they're used to their smartphone and everything else. But for the people that don't ever want to touch the screen, I don't have a lot of the shortcuts set up by default, but you can set up hotkeys on your keypad. So I never actually have to touch the screen ever on this interface if I don't want. So for the users out there that don't want to tap, it's very streamlined. Like I said, you could set it up so that I walk up to that item, I go beep, and that's it. That's all I have to do to indicate I've picked that item. It's faster than voice, faster than paper, and it gives me that physical verification that I did grab the right item. It doesn't validate that I picked the right quantity or from the right bin, but if that's the type of speed you need in your picking, like you've got a pick face and you're just grabbing stuff out of bins, slapping it into a box on a conveyor, that's what you need. That's the type of performance you need. Okay.
And I know of an application, I know of a company, as as rare as this probably is, they have many, many, many different products. But every single pick, they only ever pick one piece, and and it's always the same product in the same size box in every single warehouse location, and every warehouse location only has one SKU. You simply don't need all of that.
Right.
It's scan and go.
Exactly.
And every order size is exactly one.
Exactly. And you know, those are the kinds of guys, even though it might be a large organization, but they've got a fairly simple process. They don't need that's a WMS Express. You don't even have to pay for the software to be able to use the barcodes to do it. Even if you have lot numbers and serial numbers and all that, it'll handle it. So those are the guys I'm like, why do you want to pay for your WMS and your shipping software? We've got that stuff for free. It'll do everything you need, right? So I talked about WMS Express for the free WMS, but we've also I did mention Ordership Express, which is the free shipping stuff. You don't get free shipping. The software is free. You still pay for your shipping, but
Of course.
yeah,
It's an important point. That's a very important point.
well, we struggled with that. How do we describe this? It's
Yeah.
free shipping. Well, no, you don't get the shipping free. You get the software free. But
Yes.
yeah, you know, for a lot of organizations, probably a majority of the organizations that need to do barcoding and have that shipping integration, why would you pay for it? You know, we've got the solution out there, and it's free, and it'll probably meet your needs. You might be in the 40% or the 30% of whatever that range is that you actually need something like Warehouse Insight or Dynamic Ship. But for the vast majority of the rest of you, grab it. It's free. Use it. You don't even have to talk to us. You can just grab it and go. So anyway,
No, that's amazing. And again, SMB marketplace, right? That's the kind of thing that there are an awful lot of customers out there. You're doing God's work, brother, to help enable those companies to do what they need to do. And you know, and if you think about it from a business perspective, once they fall in love with you, we've already talked about attrition. They go somewhere else. Well, you know what? I love this product. And they take that experience with them and they share. And then they can spread the love that is Insight works with other companies. So there's a lot of merit in doing that.
That's right.
It's everybody wants to share the good news.
and that
And
happens.
it sounds like a good news story.
Yeah, that happens surprisingly often. We get somebody, hey, I used to work at so and so, and I'm here now. And we want your stuff. It happens all, and actually, we've had it quite often where it bubbles up from the actual warehouse. So, you know, they hired somebody to work in the warehouse, and they're like, you should be using this, and it bubbles up, and eventually they do it. So it's not just for, you know, the people, you know, managing the finance side of it, or looking at, you know, the efficiency reports and everything else. You know, the guys in the shop like this stuff. They actually like using it. So
I did a deployment of mobile computers in a warehouse, and on that day, the most knowledgeable person in the room was one of the pickers.
yeah.
He was geeking out over the technology. He was the one asking all the questions,
Yeah.
not the engineer, not the CFO, not the COO, not the president. It was one of the pickers was the most knowledgeable.
Yeah.
And so guess who we did all of our testing with?
Yeah,
So
makes sense.
not that that's an ideal situation. Sometimes you want to do it with the people who are the least skilled,
Yeah.
so you can really find out and give it more of a difficult test. But that's who we did it with on that day.
Right. Yeah, that's cool.
So,
Yeah, and I got sidetracked a little there, but you know, we're talking about sort of the efficiency, key presses, and all that. And one of the things I'll just quickly mention. I mean, you can't really see it that well, but I'm going to hit one of those hotkeys on my keypad to execute one of the menu items, and that menu item happens to be the item inquiry. So this is the drill down mode I briefly mentioned earlier, where I can come in and say, you know, hey, I scanned that item and I could only find 25. I needed 50. What's going on? Where's the rest of it? Well, that drill down gives me the ability to find maybe an alternate bin to pick from, right? So I can come in here and I can see, you know, lot numbers per bin if you've got that setting enabled. So I can look at, what's the next, you know, oldest lot number by expiry date that I can pick instead because I can't find the one I'm at. Down here, you see this thing, that's a fact box. So just like in Business Central, you can have fact boxes. Well, you can turn on any fact boxes you want within this as well. So quite often we see that when people are using tablets, right? I'm using this this handheld device, but a lot of people will use tablets on a pick cart or a forklift or whatever. Well, you got tons of screen real estate. You can put pictures on there, pick instructions, whatever the heck you want. Websites, if you want, you can put whatever you want in a fact box for the most part. So anyway, you can tailor it to position it wherever you like. But anyway, we do fact boxes. But the item inquiry just, again, gives me some detail about the item and all that kind of stuff. And I can look at, recent transactions, or, print a barcode label from here so we can print from the handhelds, almost anything you like. All of these applications are built and maintained in Business Central. So if I want to go in and add a new menu item or add a new application, we have an application wizard. I'll get into it in a sec maybe. You can tailor this to do whatever the heck you want. We've got some videos and knowledge base that teach you how to use the application designer within the system to make it do what you want. Anyway.
Well, and the item inquiry, I love that feature, to being able to see all the other locations. Yes, sadly, sometimes inventory is inaccurate. Sometimes that happens. But I think about the evolution of warehousing, and modern warehousing. It used to be everything was, we have to work the way our human brains work. I want all of the same product in all of the same predictable place because that's easier for this noggin. But the truth be told, we've found that you can reduce the distance traveled and the time spent by the pickers if you do more of a random put away. So you may have the same item in numerous places throughout the warehouse, and then as they optimize the picks, they can actually walk to the closest location based from the previous pick. But sometimes accuracy suffers, as I said, and you have to come back to that, and you've got to adjust. And then have that option, that's when human intelligence, not artificial intelligence, kicks in, and we can take care of that customer satisfaction by moving forward, and we can report the inventory because it says we only picked 25, and we can make sure that through whatever process we make sure that gets back to the system for the inventory discrepancy.
Exactly. Yeah. And along those lines, that item inquiry and various things like that, historically it has been just automated data collection. I've used that term a few times, where it was an old green screen, and a lot of people still use it.
Yeah, sure.
And that's what it did. It let you scan barcodes and not much else. But this thing is a computer. Like, we've got a computer in our hand. Let's use it like a computer and not just a dumb terminal. That item inquiry, like, I can go in there, quickly look it up. The alternative is I write this on the back of my hand, and half an hour later in the office I try and figure out what the heck I wrote down and figure out what I'm supposed to do with it, right? So it is very cool. And one of the cool things about these guys is you can run Teams on this. A lot of people are running Teams. I want to use this as a walkie-talkie. Well, Teams actually has a walkie-talkie mode. And now I've got a walkie-talkie in my hand. I can't find something. I hit talk and broadcast to everybody else. Hey, anybody know where this is? There's beyond just what we provide, just having these computers in your hand out in the warehouse helps a lot.
It sure does. And think about the supervisors who may have email, and they may need other functionality as well beyond that.
Exactly.
They are. I call them a mobile computer on purpose. That's what it is. It's a mobile computer. Now, the CK65 that you're holding doesn't look like a phone, but if you were holding the Honeywell CT47, okay, that would look very much like a phone.
Exactly.
And while it may or may not have the SIM card in it that enables that phone capability, there it is. And while it may or may not have that SIM card enable the phone capability, people think of it as a phone. But really, in this context, as you said, Mark, it is a mobile computer in every way. It has more processing power by many miles over my old Commodore 64. So it is a computer.
Yeah, exactly. All right, so that in a nutshell is picking. There's a lot more I didn't get into on the picking side, but what we do is tell people it's everywhere in the system. It's bin, item, quantity. Like bin, item, optionally enter quantity, and that's how you use the system. So if you know how to use one application, you can essentially use them all. Like if I said, hey, go do an inventory count now, you could do it. You'd hit the count button on there, and you'd go, okay, scan the bin, scan the item, and enter the quantity, and you're doing an inventory count, right? So it's very nice. Yep. One of the things I will actually, let me back out. I was going into shipping there, but see these applications at the bottom of the screen here. this requisition app and the job consumption app, well, those guys aren't really part of the solution. I built those myself inside Business Central using the application wizard. I didn't write any code. I went next, 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 filled in some fields and a few other things that I needed, and built these applications. And now I can consume against a job journal, or I can create requisition worksheets using the scanner. That's how extensible the solution is. Me, 10 minutes.
And we all
Sorry, go ahead.
we all know how important no code and low code has become to
Exactly.
Microsoft. So
Exactly.
I love that you're really growing the capability within that particular objective, because we know what it can bring to the orgs that are out there that are going to choose this.
Exactly. And one last little thing while I'm here. Beyond the warehouse management, you can do all sorts of things, proof of delivery, and all sorts of things within the system. And I'll just highlight another one. You know, what we sometimes see on the shipping side is the need to capture signatures and things like that. Well, we can also take photos. So a lot of people just sign the paper document. From within here, we can take a photo of those documents or damaged product or whatever you want. It'll automatically upload and attach into Business Central. But for this example, I just created my own little signed document extension effectively. Again, no code required. I went into Business Central and I dragged and dropped a few Lego blocks. And now when I tap this menu item, I get to come in and sign my name and say it was, well, let's say it was Jed today. Oops.
I was going to say, quick, let me take a screenshot. Oh.
Yeah, so why is it not typing? Let me just, so in this case, I don't know how to type, so I'm going to use the built-in Android thing, and we're going to say it was Joe, and I'm going to record that. And what it just did there was it attached that signature up to the sales order that I'm working on. Simple as that. And that took me, well, I went through and explained what I was doing, so it took about 10 minutes. But if I didn't have to explain what I was doing while I was doing it, that would have been a 5-minute job to add that type of functionality to the solution. So anyway, it's very comprehensive out of the box, but it's also very extensible to allow you to do things that you maybe didn't think you needed until you realized you could do it.
Yeah, let's see you capture a signature with just a handheld barcode scan. Good luck with that.
Yeah, exactly.